Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Boozer with CUGC HQ, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar. We're getting a firsthand look at the new Citrix Workspace user experience. I know that's going to be really exciting and can't wait to see. We've seen some little videos online, I think, on social media, but now we're going to get a real look. So I won't take up too much time with my announcements. I'll let these guys get started. But first, I do want to let you know that we have two Excel events happening this month. The first is in New York City on June 21st. We've got a big lineup of speakers, great content for a full day. If you are in the area or can get to the area easily, we'd love to have you. These are free events. The other one is in Bengaluru on June 28th, and this is our first Excel event there, so we're excited about that. Another awesome lineup of speakers there as well. In just a moment, I'll put the link in the chat for you so you can go and take a look at our calendar and get all the details for these events and everything else that we have going on. All right. Also, if you haven't already joined us on Slack and Discord, we'd love to have you. You can scan this QR code and fill out the form and we'll get you set up. You can also request to join your local user group Slack channel. Those are private channels just so you can have private conversations with your local CUGC members. So definitely get involved there as well. All right, just a couple of housekeeping details for you. We are recording today. You'll get a link to that recording tomorrow via email, so be on the lookout for that. Also, we'd love to have your questions. Type them in as you have them. We'll get to as many as we can today. You can put those in the Q&A panel, and then you can have your regular chit chat in the chat panel. Love for you to say hello in the chat and tell us where you're joining from today and communicate there. All right, I am about to hand things over. So with us today, we have Manju Annie Oommen. This is her third webinar with us in the past month or so, a little over a month. And we also have Roopam Das. These guys are the product management team for Citrix Workspace. And I'm going to let them say a little bit more about themselves and turn it straight over to them. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And there you go.
Thank you, Steph. And hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here. It's good to be here again. And so today's session, we're going to be introducing you into the new user experience. Some of you may have already seen part of the experience if you have enabled it in your environment. Give me a second before we move forward. So I'm Manju Annie Oommen. I'm the Director of Product Management for Citrix Workspace app. With me, we have Roopam Das, who's the Lead Product Manager for the UI experience. So whatever we see here today, it's his work and with the engineering and the design team together. He's a bit under the weather and it's naughty, so I might do a lot more talking. And he will be here responding to any questions that you have. He will also take you through a couple of live demos in this overall meeting. So if you have any feedback, any questions, as we are going through the presentation, just feel free to post it and we will address it as much as possible through the session. Yep. So just to be on the same page with all of you, the user interface experience that we have enhanced and already made it available in public tech preview is the cloud for the cloud users. So if you are leveraging the cloud environment, this is we are actually talking about the new user experience there. So the current experience that you see today in your respective environment is as you see on the screen, right? So the navigation is slightly different. It's a left navigation. We did find that there were a lot of feedback with respect to the current user experience and a lot of areas for improvement in terms of how users get to navigate, how the first time user experience could be, redundancy of apps showing up on recents and favorites, and the number of clicks to reach to an application for a user was a little higher. So we wanted to optimize the entire experience. The app enumeration performance in itself, some improvements were already done. You would see a little more improvement going forward with the new user experience as well. And search is another area where definitely a lot more enhancement was required. The objective for us has been, based on the customer, based on your feedback, based on a lot of end user feedback, usability testing, and also the primary motive was to provide you an experience which is empowering to the end user and also providing you a little more control to how you want to have that experience showing up for the end user. So this is just a beginning in that direction, and you will see how this will evolve further as well. So an overview, so what we are going to cover, as I mentioned, the new user experience is in public tech review. So if you have existing cloud environment, you should be seeing a toggle in the administrative tool within Citrix Cloud under Workspace configuration to enable this experience for specific user group or for your entire environment. And so what we will cover is the first set of experience that has been rolled out, will be rolled out, and what can be expected in the timeline from a GA perspective, and also a little bit in terms of where are we headed with respect to experience beyond cloud environment towards storefront. So within the new user experience, we'll cover the first time user experience, the simplified navigation we are introducing, the search enhancements we've done, and a new capability called Activity Manager, which has been introduced into this experience. Yeah. So starting with the first time user experience. So today the experience is suboptimal, right? The first time user can possibly land on a blank page, and it could be quite misleading and underwhelming to land on a blank page. So what we've done is, in order to onboard any users to while a first time user is actually getting onboarded, so we just trying to familiarize them with the concept of favorites. So they would see a pop-up page where they would see upfront some of the recommended apps and mandatory apps. So you can define mandatory apps and recommended apps on Web Studio today for virtual apps and desktops. What we've also done is introduce that concept within SPA. So if you have web and SaaS applications, that could also be defined whether it is a mandatory or a recommended app upfront for the user, which they will see as they land on their homepage. So this is a mechanism to familiarize them with the concept of favorites and what they can expect before they land into the first homepage. The user can also pick and choose an app that they would like to favorite and see on their homepage as well. Yeah. So that's the first time user experience we've introduced as part of this new user experience. The other aspect is obviously the landing page itself, which is your homepage. The homepage behavior, as you can see, we don't have separate tabs for reasons and favorites. It's a single view experience. It's for quick access. So the behavior is that you would see your favorites app, which will include your mandatory app, and then followed by recent applications based on the user's access and based on the usage of the user. The recent application would start displaying on the homepage. Now, this would also be something that can be enabled or disabled. So by default, it is enabled. Administrators, you can decide if you want to disable it. If you don't see value in this, if you feel there is confusion caused because of this, you can disable it as well. So we were providing that control there. We'll actually see a live instance going forward. Let me just introduce you to a couple of these aspects, and then we can see it live as well. As you can see, there will also be greeting to the user with the username. So, just for your information, the name is actually getting captured from the directory. So if you have entered the first name and the last name appropriately, it should reflect on the home screen for the end user. Yeah. Going to the apps tab. So apps tab is where you have all the virtual apps and web and SaaS apps listed. So there is and the normal behavior is to have all the favorites just the same. The consistent behavior you saw on homepage will be shown on apps as well. So you'll have the favorites in the beginning and followed by all the applications in alphabetical order. There is if you want to create categories, there's an option to create categories today on Web Studio, and you can now create categories for web and SaaS application in SPA. So it will be an integrated experience where you would see both web and SaaS application as well as your virtualized application under categories. So if you have a list of categorized root categories and subcategories defined, today the experience that we have rolled out with the public tech preview only shows the root categories, so the first level categories. So if you have entered subcategories, it might show up as root categories. If any of you have actually tried it out, you would see that. This is an instance we are aware is a gap, and the team is actually working on fixing it, right? So what we are working towards from a mock-up perspective is shown here. This is not the final, but mock-up. So if you have beyond 10, 15 categories, which doesn't stick into the, stay within the user interface, you will actually have a more link where you can actually click and see the rest of the categories and choose from them. If there are subcategories, it will be subfolders which will start showing up. So there will be a more improved experience which will be introduced towards the general availability timeframe. Another aspects on the apps tab is the description. So the apps has been clearly differentiated and described what it is. This is primarily because we've integrated this experience from a web and SaaS and virtualized app. Earlier, with the current experience, we did not have an integrated experience of showing both web and SaaS app as well as the virtualized app within the same category. So we fixed that issue as well in this process. Okay. That's the apps tab. On the desktop tab, it's a very simple tile view with the 3-dot menu. So the 3-dot menu you will see it on virtual apps as well. It's not just on the desktop app, but desktop will have additional options that you can, additional actions that you can take in comparison to your virtualized app. So the options menu shows a restart capability. You can open the desktop. In fact, if it is not favorited, you can also have add to favorite option. Total character, one of the things we want to mention is that so details view is not showing up in the first version, and we've recognized and we got a lot of feedback from you. And if you guys have still got feedback, do share it on the chat. That the details is still required because a lot of app names are redundant and you're differentiating it with additional details. And in a scenario where you want to see the additional details, we're giving that option. So that is being worked on towards the general availability that will also show up. However, the reason why actually we removed it, and one of the additional aspects we've introduced, is the characters that it can fit within the tile. So there was limitation in terms of the total characters which can fit in terms of the app name or the desktop name. That has been doubled now. So which means that if there is a possibility for you to differentiate the app name or the desktop name within the name itself and without using the additional details or description, we would suggest you do that, because that makes it easy for the user to upfront differentiate these two applications. And of course, if it needs to be, it is much longer, then you will need to be forced to use the details. For that, we are adding the details option back to the tile. Yeah. Now for search enhancement, as part of the overall experience, sorry, see a pop up here. So as part of the overall experience, search was absolutely important for us to enhance. The primary reason, like as I mentioned at the beginning, our primary motive was to empower users and help them get to their task as soon as possible. So in scenarios where there is immense number of applications listed and the user needs to get to their app, the first thing that anybody would use is a search. So we did improve the search significantly. We've incorporated fussy search algorithm into it, so which will enhance the experience even in scenarios when there is a typo. There's keyword-based search capabilities as well, like based on categories. You can actually search all the application based on the description. And if the user is unaware of the app name, however knows what type of app it is, just can search based on that description to search for the appropriate app and start using it. Right? Before we move forward, we can actually quickly look at what that live experience looks like. Okay. So this is the environment we are using internally. So just that you're aware, within Citrix, we kind of have moved to this experience internally just to ensure that we're catering to all the requirement, any bugs and things. This is our way of dog fooding to ensure whatever we deliver is foolproof. So as you can see, this is how the UI looks like. You have so this is a greeting. This is a search, home, apps, and desktops. As you can see, the home experience with quick access, with the star as the favorites, actually created by the user. So the user has enabled favorites, it will show up like this. And even if it's a recommended app, it will show up as a favorite app, which could be unfavorited. And the mandatory app looks like this with a lock, so I cannot unfavorite. So that's the basic behavior. Apps and desktop we just briefly went through. The profile is today the same. There will be additional enhancements from an experience perspective we will be working towards in the future. This is the additional icon we have introduced called Activity Manager. We'll go through a live demo very quickly. And on search, right? So you want to say a few words on this, Roopam? Search, since
Sure.
you're very passionately working on this.
Yeah, I mean, we have improved the search many folds. First of all, as you see, even before we type anything, we see the recent apps on it so that users can quickly click on them and get to their work. And we will start showing the results with the first alphabet itself. Now, we have also introduced something called as fuzzy search, as you mentioned, Manju, where if I want to search Notepad, but instead I write NOET, I can still see Notepad as a suggestion. Users can also do a search on categories. If they know which category their apps belong to, they can say, for example, search engineering, and they'll see all the apps which are there in under engineering category as suggestions. And lastly, if they don't know, right, which category it is, they also don't know what the app name is. If they know the type of the app, for example, browser, and they can search with the browser, right? Then they see all the applications which have, browser in it. So this way, search will be more beneficial, and hopefully we'll see, better usage of it. Over to you, Manju.
Thank you. All right, so that's the basic UI experience that we have introduced. One of the additional aspect beyond the overall experience where we showed that home could be disabled. This is the default experience when you have applications beyond 20 apps and desktops in your user interface. Now, what happens if the user only has less than 20 users or 20 resources? So you might have a lot of users may just have one desktop and that's all what they're accessing. They might just want to have it as have a shortcut, but there will be scenarios where it is less than 20. So the UI is dynamic to that extent. The experience it's different in the scenario. The FTU experience is also different. So from an FTU perspective, we will have a different onboarding scenario here where while onboarding on Windows especially, there will be a quick access option provided as a pop-up to the end user where we are giving them a choice to create shortcuts on their desktop. This will be applicable, especially when they have just 5 apps, right? So 5 or less applications, and this will enable them to just create shortcuts on their desktop and directly access those work apps instead of having to log into the Workspace UI. That's the onboarding experience for Windows. We're trying to bring this to other operating systems as well. And from a UI perspective, if they're logging into the user interface, it's a single pane, no navigation, there's no search because all the apps are just listed out there. So it minimizes the clicks and the confusions they may possibly have. So this is the experience a user sees if they have less than 20 resources. Yeah. Okay, so this user experience, as I just mentioned, is available in public tech preview. So if you have a Citrix Cloud environment and admin portal, you should be able to see a toggle. We can quickly take you through that experience. So that toggle would be available where you can enable enable specific user groups. Just a minute, my system is hung. Yeah. So this is the navigation. So you go to workspace configuration under customize. You may have also got some pop-ups informing you this new user experience is available under customize and features. The workspace experience, you can preview what the new experience looks like before you want to enable for specific user group. You can also go through the documentations, which is available here. Enable for everyone or enable it for selected users and user groups. So this option is available so that it gives you enough time to test it for specific user groups. Once you are, convinced, you can transition to the new experience. Now, what we were talking about is the transition time. So you will have time to transition to the new UI. Now, that would be essentially from general availability. Whenever we go GA with this UI, which is going to be relatively soon, 6 months from that time is when you can completely, or you are expected to completely transition to the new user experience. So you have 6 months to the default experience that your users will continue to see is the old experience, as you can see here. And the 6 months is enough time for you to actually test it out for specific user groups. Or if you want to test it on specific staging or development environment, just get in touch with us. We'll enable it there. And, if there are documentations that you need to put in place, please do that. Please also go through our documentation, which might help as well. And once that's done, within 6 months, you're expected to completely, that's the cutoff time which will start from the GA timeframe. And within 6 months, you're expected to completely transition. Yeah. I'm just going to pause here for a minute and see if you have any questions which we need to address. Roopam, do you see any questions?
Some of the questions regarding subcategories and adding the descriptions. So wanted to inform that we will be adding it as part of the GA itself. So yeah, that will be available soon.
Great, thank you. Yes, we will certainly see that is definitely important, and it's a current experience capability as well. So we would ensure that whatever current experience capabilities exist is also available with the new experience. So that's definitely in our radar. Thank you. Yeah. So just showed you where exactly you can actually toggle the new experience. Now moving on to the new capability that we are introducing, which is Activity Manager. Activity Manager is also in preview, but if you have subscribed for it, and if you haven't, and if you want to enable it in your environment, please, there is a blog which has been released. So Roopam, if probably before the session, we should paste the blog link into the chat, and we'll also share it with Stephanie so that when she responds back to you, you will have the blog link. There is a form that you can fill in to enable your environment with Activity Manager if you're interested. So this is also in preview. The Activity Manager is a new feature that we have introduced to enable users to manage their own sessions. So any active running sessions that they are leveraging, they are using, can be seen in this single pane. This is the icon that they would see. And when you click on the icon, they would see all the sessions and all the apps that they are running on the device locally, as well as if they're opened any apps or desktops or any sessions on another device, they would see the same as well in a single pane. So you can see on this device, these are the sessions which is running. And there would be another tag which says, running remotely. So on the mobile, you can see running remotely, the sessions which are running remotely, which is probably on your desktop. And you can manage these sessions wherever you are. So there are different scenarios. This will be very useful. What we are going out in the first phase is obviously with log off and disconnect, which is the basic actions that you can take. There would be more options that we would come up with depending upon the hypervisor and the VM support, right? So if it's a persistent VM, we are introducing power off, shutdown, and reset option as well. Right? And we'll see how we will further enhance this capability, providing a little more control to the end user, and eventually reducing a lot of administrative tickets. For example, if some of your session is hung and the user has no option but to raise a service ticket, Instead, they can actually log into their mobile and log off from that session. Because when the system is hung, it's hung. Log off from the session or disconnect from the session and then restart it on their desktop. So there are a lot of different use cases this could be useful, but let me not talk too much before that. I'll just hand over this to Roopam to take you through a live demo of an activity manager.
Okay, thanks, Manju. Let me quickly share my screen, and here we go. Right. So imagine I am a database engineer, and my day-to-day task involves creating and managing a lot of data. So my typical day would start with me quickly starting my virtual desktop, and as soon as it starts, I would have to work on MS Access, and probably Excel will be coming in handy. So this is my virtual desktop which has started, and let me show you. This is the activity manager icon, as Manju mentioned, and when you click on it, I see that the desktop is here, right? Now, Access and Excel aren't showing yet because they are currently opening, but yes, Access has opened. So now you see it there. And let me see. Yeah, Excel is also opening. Yeah. Now you see that on this device, under desktops, I can see my running desktop, and under applications, the two applications which are running. Now, throughout the day, I'll be working on these apps, and by end of the day, I will turn off my laptop, and on the way home, I can log into my Workspace app through my mobile. So here, what I'm trying to do is logging into an incognito window on a mobile emulator, so that I can simulate the remote access situation. Here, if you see, the activity manager is a separate tab in the bottom. And when I click on it, I can see that running remotely are the same desktop and applications. So what I can do here is I can quickly disconnect these applications. So if you see, Access here got closed, and the apps also got disappeared. And finally, if I don't want my laptop to keep running and consuming so much energy, as well as it will be hogging a license which other users can use, I can, from my mobile, quickly log out this application. So if you see, the whole desktop is now signed out. So this will provide users very granular control over when their applications are running, when their desktops are running, how they can control the power which it is getting consumed. And in the future, as Manju mentioned, we'll be adding shutdown and power off. And by power off, I mean when the session is hung and users are not able to do a proper logout or shutdown, they can do a hard power off, which will be like a plug out, and hence they will not need to raise any tickets to the admin, and they can handle these things themselves. Yeah, over to you, Manju.
Thank you. And while we're on this, I'll just address a couple of the chat questions. So Brian probably wouldn't be able to provide you an ETA for GA. However, you can test these changes at this point in time from the public tech itself. So we'll keep pushing more and more improvements as we go forward. But it's not too far away. That's all what I can say from a GA perspective. And do get in touch with us. We can have a discussion if there is a concern and further discussion we need to have. This experience, Juan, is primarily for cloud today. What we have released, or what we are releasing, and we are also considering this for storefront, and that's the next part of our discussion. So it's a good, leeway into getting to the next discussion. Okay, so yeah, so as I hope you're clear with activity manager, and if you have any questions, I can see something coming in. Roopam, you can address it, or we can take it up in the end of the session as well. So Yeah, so as I mentioned, this experience that we have introduced in public tech and going to go GA is for cloud users. So, however, with the new strategy and the aspect of wanting to invest in on-prem stores as well and storefront as well, we intend to bring this experience on-prem as well. So to ensure that it's a consistent experience, irrespective of where you're deploying the resources, whether it is workspace or storefront, the end user can have a consistent experience. So there is an intent to bring this experience, and the team is investigating on these lines. So it'll be good to understand from all of you if this is of interest, and if you would like to or want to consider this new modern UI for on-premises as well. So Stephanie, if you can put in that poll as a yes and no, that'll be great.
Yep, it's running, and so far it's overwhelming yeses, but I think the no's are, no, the yes is a lot. I'll let it go a few more seconds though.
Sure.
I think it's a big yes. Yeah, I'll share the results though.
Sure.
I'll show you how big of a yes. There you go.
Lovely, 92%. So I do see 8% no. So please do post in why do you say no. So it's also important for us to understand if there are certain avenues that we haven't addressed, so we can continue to work towards that as well. So the next question, as we move, if and when we are actually moving towards the new UI on-prem, we are very well aware that the on-premises storefront environment does include a lot of customization, and transitioning path could be very different to how it is on cloud. So what do you think is the best way to adopt the new UI if it is made available on-prem? So there are the three options that we are talking about. Have an opt-in choice for the new UI and retain both the options. Force transition to the new UI with a cutoff date. And finally, a combination of both, which essentially means that we provide you an opt-in choice, but we give you a much larger transition period as a cutoff date from which the new experience will be put forth. So what do you think should be the ideal way to go about, once we provide the new UI experience on premises, how best can you transition? What should be the best way to move forward?
So far, the first choice is taking the lead, but I'll give it a little bit longer. And there we go. I'll cut it off now.
Sure.
And there you go.
Great. Thank you. So yeah, I can see that the first and the last one, it's kind of combined. So we obviously, once we make this available, we're going to track, if we cater to all the requirements, and essentially we'll need to decide what that cutoff time frame looks like. Yeah. Thank you for your feedback. Last question. So as mentioned, we do understand, a lot of you may have done personalization and customization within the UI. So how deep is your customization at your end? And if you have implemented it in the current storefront UI experience, we're talking about the UI, not the login page. So once you land post login, what level of customization have you done? Is it minimal to none, where it's basic theming, logo changes, admin notification banner, which is something we've also introduced into the workspace, the cloud user interface. Medium, which is basically you want to introduce a company banner, you want to rearrange applications, resize apps, app icons, and so on. Or have you done an extensive customization where you've completely changed the look and feel with a lot of custom DLL injections.
All right, we've got two that are running neck and neck right now. Give it like 2 more seconds and then we'll close it out. All right, there you go.
Okay. That's really good to see that there's not so much of an extensive customization percentage-wise that I can see. And it's first and two, which is going ahead. So yeah, so this is essentially very important for Roopam and us to, this team to consider while we make this experience available on-prem. And we will be cautious of this as well. Okay, so that is all we have for today. So if there are any open questions, it was quick. Any open questions that we need to address, I think we should address now. And if you want to ask any further questions, please feel free to do so.
While I have tried to answer as many questions I could on the chat, one of them was that is the activity manager going to be supported in HTML5 session as well? The answer to it is yes. HTML5 sessions will also be shown up.
Okay. Sure. Yes, so this experience is going to be consistent across if you're accessing over a browser, accessing over over desktop or over mobile or tablet. So that's something that we've ensured it's going to be consistent across. Brian, I see your point. That's something for us to consider. Right now, we haven't provided an option to disable the greetings, which is personalized greeting, which will show up in the UI. But we would consider that going forward. Yeah, I also see the app name and the categorization question to be considered as well. Okay. Can you go over how to request for Activity Manager? So, Roopam, would you mind entering probably the blog link that you have, which also includes the Podio form for request, the intent to request for Activity Manager?
Yeah, I'll be doing it.
Yes. So we'll share you that blog where there will be an intent form that you can raise. And once you raise that, and I think if you have a test or HS URL environment, that will be the best to share with Roopam in the intent form so that we can enable it in that environment. What we will also introduce, which I didn't cover in the session, is also a toggle for IT administrators to disable the activity manager for specific user groups if you would like to. If you don't want certain user groups to see the activity manager, you can disable it, which is not available yet. And hence we are relying on this intent form to activate you make the activity manager available to you. But we would be introducing the admin toggle where you can disable it for specific user groups if you like. Can you still have web links that open on client default browser versus forcing the enterprise browser to open all web links? So that's an out of topic question, but I believe so. Yeah. So I think that's if you're using SPA and leveraging SPA policies, that's when the enforcing of enterprise browser comes into picture because there is an entitlement associated to it. Otherwise, you should be able to open all web links without any concern. Okay.
I have pasted the link for the browser as link for the blog as well as the intent form in the chat. And please ensure to provide the customer ID, CC ID, and not the org ID.
Okay. If there isn't anything else, I think we're good. We've covered pretty much everything from a new experience perspective.
Okay. Yeah, that's a busy chat today. I will pull that everything out of the chat and send it to you guys so that you have those questions captured and in case you need to go back to them for anything.
So that would be helpful.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you both for being here today. And thank you everyone for attending. Like I said, you'll get a link tomorrow to the recording as well as to this blog post. It looks like there's a couple things there, the intent form as well. Make sure that gets in the email with the webinar recording so that you have all that in one place. And if you need anything, you can always reach out to me through CUGC and we'll make sure we get your questions to the right place. Or you can join our Slack channel and you can ask questions there too. All right, Manju, Roopam, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it and getting this first look. It was awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you all.
All right, have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.